Hello, hello, and welcome to this episode of the Nerds of the North podcast, episode number 47. 47 episodes. You can barely believe it. I know I can't. We are here today going to be talking about primarily probably about the season finale and the show as a whole, Obi-Wan. Disney Plus, and then we're also going to probably be talking about this most recent episode of The Boys, Hero Gasm, because goddamn, that was wild. But as always, I'm host number one, Matt, and joining me, as always, is host number two,
Nick.
Nick. and and but yeah, so I guess we'll just start at the top where we were talking about with Obi-Wan. So we got all 6 episodes of Obi-Wan released now. The finale has happened, and we're here to talk about that. So what did you think? I mean, I think the initial or like all the excitement about the show, I think kind of waned quite a lot when the episodes actually started airing. But what did you think of everything as a whole?
I guess I'll start with what I thought of the finale, if that works for you. Because overall, I did enjoy the finale. I thought the stuff with Obi-Wan and Ian, man, I should look up how you actually pronounce his name.
Oh, Ewan?
Ewan, is that right? Ewan.
Yeah,
We're like best friends, so I should really know.
You should know by
I
now.
pronounce his name. So I apologize, Ewan, if I've been calling you Ian. You know, when
you've been calling him Guy all these years.
Yeah. Yeah, great guy. A lot of good stories. Man, we go way back. Anyway. Yeah, the stuff with him and Darth Vader hating on that planet, I'm drawing a blank on its name, was particularly good. The best part of the whole series is probably when Vader has half of his mask destroyed.
Yeah.
And it says he killed Anakin Skywalker, because that actually sets up a lot in episode 4, I think, where Obi-Wan calls him Darth versus Anakin, because he says goodbye, Darth, when he's Obi-Wan to Vader when he's leaving. Also, it explains why in episode 6, when Vader has his mask taken off, he has this big scar down the side of his head, which wasn't necessarily explained in episode 3.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
Yeah, so there's a lot going. There's a lot going on in that I thought was particularly good. In fact, those scenes, anything with Vader would seem to be the best written stuff in the show. A lot of the other stuff was a little cringe-inducing. Some of the other stuff in the show, but overall, like the arc for for Obi-Wan and Vader, I thought was good. I know you have some comments on the whole Reva showing up on Tatooine and hunting down our boy Luke. So if you want to go into that, or you can let me ramble on some more.
I will say that I totally agree with everything with Obi-Wan and Darth, like, because it even sets up, like, Obi-Wan telling Luke in A New Hope that Darth Vader killed his father. That wasn't like really it was only hyperbolic in that Darth Vader said it about himself, but like Obi-Wan essentially just told him exactly what his friend and Luke's father told him, was that, like, yeah, your dad killed Anakin, and which is very interesting. Like, I thought that was a nice subtle tie-in to that. And then I didn't even think about Obi-Wan calling him Darth in A New Hope when they eventually meet again. But yeah, like as a whole, the show, the parts with Obi-Wan and Darth were generally always pretty good. The only part with like the whole battle with Obi-Wan and Darth that I wasn't a fan of was probably when he initially got like buried by all the stones in that pit that Darth threw at him. It doesn't seem like something Darth would do to like leave him there. He wouldn't just like throw up rocks at him and then not, like, he was prepared to torture Obi-Wan like extensively for his sins, you know. But instead, he just like throws him into a pit, covers him with rocks, and he's like, "Gotcha," and then walks away. But
Yeah.
outside of that, I thought it was really cool.
Here's
But-
my headcanon about sort of the weird stuff with Obi-Wan. This is what I'm going to choose to believe as far as like Darth Vader having opportunities to kill Obi-Wan and not doing it, especially with that. Yeah, the rock scene and also with the weird fire river between them that somehow
Right.
prevented him from getting him. Little ridiculous. Maybe Darth Vader or Anakin. There is some part of Anakin that's still alive that doesn't actually want to kill his master. Because there is a question like when Obi-Wan didn't kill Darth Vader when he had the chance to at the end of this last episode too. I didn't know why that was either.
Yeah, because he certainly, like for the rest of the show, he seems much more brazenly confident, just going wherever he pleases, you know. And I think that has a little bit to do with his getting his groove back, but also, like it seems like his blow against Darth to him is very symbolic in that, like, he doesn't have to be afraid of Darth Vader any longer. Which I don't know if that's quite accurate, but I mean, he certainly acts that way.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I mean, even at the beginning of the show, we didn't really know Darth Vader was alive or Anakin was alive.
Right. But yeah, like there's definitely like wiggle room, I think, there for like why they would be pulling their punches, so to speak, because like they were very good friends, you know, they were brothers basically, and so for them to not fully want to commit to killing one another does make sense. I know some people have really had their panties in a twist over Darth not killing Obi-Wan, and I would agree that I do think it is a little weird, but I also think it's fair to, yeah, like you're saying, that it's like there's a fondness there, you know, there's a part of Anakin still alive in Darth Vader that is preventing him from wanting to like fully commit to that. So
The acting that Hayden had in that scene with half his face revealed and just his, well, not even half his face, was essentially his eye.
yeah,
Was excellent. You know, like I wish that was what we saw in the prequel trilogy, because that was pretty great. I really thought that was really great.
but did you not enjoy it? No.
Well, I was more referring to just Hayden's acting in general, specifically episode 2, which was just,
Terrible.
to be honest, if I'm being honest with myself, that's probably the worst acting I've ever seen on anything I've ever watched.
Yeah, it's pretty high up there, man. Like,
just I mean, I guess, and they're being faithful, like I've said this in the past, the show's being faithful to the cringe factor from the prequels. So I appreciate it, I guess.
yeah, I mean, actually, you know, on that point, you know, the like all the scenes with little Leia, like that is definitely like a really solid analog to young Anakin, right? And at least in Phantom Menace, which was definitely, I mean, in my opinion, I think Phantom Menace is the best of the prequels. Personally, I think there's a good argument there for Revenge of the Sith, but
yeah, that's a hot take, but I tend to agree with you, maybe controversially, about that. So
yeah, controversy, fuck red. But yeah, that all that being said, yeah, Riva going to Tatooine doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense to me, especially lasering in on Owen and his farm. Like, what was her whole plan? Like, was she getting revenge on Owen? What was her like purpose? Her whole deal in roping Obi-Wan into all of this was to get close to Darth, to be able to strike him down for what he did to her and her friends while they were Padawans in the Jedi Temple all those years ago. So that was her plan. She failed. Darth essentially left her for dead. And so she hears about a child on Tatooine that has something to do with Obi-Wan. But her beef isn't really with Obi-Wan. So she goes to Tatooine looking for this kid, goes to the place. It makes sense why she would go to the town maybe where Obi-Wan was, but why Owen? Why is she after Luke in the first place? Like, there, I'm having a hard time making those dots connect in a way that like is satisfying to me anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly agree with you. There was that scene in the first episode where Reva and Owen have this sort of confrontation.
Mhm.
It seemed to imply that she kind of felt something was up with him, but wasn't allowed to pursue. And
Right.
then when she heard that about the boy, perhaps that was something that using force powers, she used that to kind of
Yeah, see,
figure
like
out something was right there. And then they also, I don't know, you know, it is what
yeah,
it is.
it
But
yeah, and like it is they could have just put something in there to like imply, even if like if Bale had just brought up Owen, like if he had just said like it's like I'm going to Owen and the boy.
he did know about Owen because he knew where Obi-Wan was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like at least if he had mentioned Owen's name, then there would have been like an immediate lightning strike, like,
Yeah.
oh, he does know about something, you know, for
Yeah.
Reva to react for. But what doesn't really track for me is like why the fuck she's going after this kid in the first place. Like,
Well, okay, so that's a good question. And in my head, I'm like the gears are going, and
yeah,
I think maybe I won't be able to provide a satisfactory answer for you because this implies the show maybe had more on its mind than it. The show is kind of. I saw one headline. It said it was sort of an assault on your intelligence, and there's some things in the show that definitely are that way. It's like, okay, I can definitely tell you're just doing this because this character is not supposed to die. They're supposed to like go do this other thing. I don't know. You can just kind of tell like the plot contrivances here and there.
Yeah.
For me when I'm watching it. However, if I'm thinking about it, like she does have some resentment towards Obi-Wan and the fact that he didn't save the kids. Like,
yeah,
where was he? I think she literally says that to him in
she does.
episode
Yeah.
5. And so when she hears about this boy that she's protecting or he's protecting, there's something in her where she's like, I'm gonna go there and hurt the person who was supposed to protect me and wasn't there to protect me by hurting something that he is trying to protect right now, which sort of, is a reflection of when she was a child. Now he's a child. So
right.
I can kind of get that. Like there's some like synergy, is that the right word? There's some like poetic like through line there that I kind of understand. And I'm glad they didn't necessarily spell it out, but the show is so clumsy in so many other ways that it's easy to not pick up on something that maybe it's doing more under the surface rather than overtly outright telling you what it's doing.
Yeah, like I really wish that like just it doesn't even have to be like, plastered on her forehead, like, what her motivations are, but it would just make so much more sense to me for there to have been like a better, like you're saying, like a better through line there for her to want to seek out revenge on Obi-Wan, because she was angry with him for not, saving her and the other Padawans. But like her real beef was with the dude who actually murdered them, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so I don't know, like in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge deal. I did mostly like Reva, though she was like, I think a little overblown. She just was like that evil all the time until she wasn't,
Right. I mean, I understand why people didn't like her character. I do think the way she delivered her lines were a little bit too. I thought how all the Sith delivered their line, or not Sith, but the Inquisitors, including the other brother who was always like talking like this, and you know what I'm talking about? Whenever he talked, I cannot take it seriously. But Reva is kind of the same way. She was always like, like really angry whenever she talked. There was never any like kind of quiet moments where you're kind of like considering her. I guess you finally got that in episode 5, where I think her character sort of became better. But before that, I kind of understand why people might not like her. And I guess there's that whole controversy where people were using race. I didn't look into this at all, where people were like being racist towards her. And then Ewan McGregor
Jesus.
came out and said, like, I didn't even watch it, but like he said,
Mhm.
like she is stop being so racist or something. And
Yeah.
it's a frustrating part of uh, of the internet. And I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of those voices that wouldn't be heard get heard a lot more than they have any right to be, especially
Mhm.
like racist voices.
Yeah.
But
Because like like my issues with like the character and the writing and like some of the plot has literally nothing to do with the color of her skin. And but there are people who zero in on that because that was happening with the character Finn when like Force Awakens was coming out too, right? Like
especially his Rose
yeah.
from episode 8, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That Star Wars fandom is particularly loud and passionate.
Yeah. And in ways that are really unsightly at times.
Yeah, in some ways it's great, other ways it's a little overwhelming. And I you actually have to have a lot of courage, I feel like, taking on Star Wars as a creative,
Hmm.
because there's can be so much blowback, like you ruined my childhood and all this
I know.
craziness that goes on.
Because at the end of the day, like it's a space opera. And so there are going to be parts of it that are corny for sure. And the formula of the space opera gets changed a little bit. Like with Mandalorian, it's definitely more of like kind of a spaghetti western type of
Mhm.
story. And and like the Rogue One was a travesty, so on and so forth. But like, it just goes to show that like it's going to take different forms. And but at the end of the day, like we like laser swords and space battles and like cool old religions that have to do with the invisible force, like it's a fun thing. Overall, my enjoyment of Obi-Wan is still high. Like I'm definitely liking Ms. Marvel a lot more, just as something that's like happening in parallel. um like Ms.
Or
Marvel is something I
the
get
boys,
so excited.
the boys. I'm
Yeah, the
not. I mean,
boys.
I like Miss Marvel. I recognize its quality, but again, I'm not really like, oh man, next episode, what's gonna happen? Can't wait.
Yeah, no, I mean that's where I've been at. I've been like,
Really?
I want more. Like I really have been enjoying it so much, and
Before we
and
move on, there's like a lot of big things I do want to talk about with
yeah,
at the end of the show. Like number one, like Qui-Gon's back. That's pretty
yeah,
crazy. I love. I mean, I know it's total fan service, and I've listened to other people on YouTube who are like think it's like the stupidest thing ever. And when they saw him on screen, all they could think of was the money signs in his eyes. I personally liked it. It didn't bug me. I thought it was cool. And like, in fact, I would love to see more of that conversation and what Qui-Gon thought
mm-hmm.
of what happened since he died, like
Yeah,
Anakin and all this stuff. Dave Filoni, he has this great speech where he talked, like in the making of the Mandalorian, the first season they did of that, where
sure,
part of the problem with Anakin was that what he didn't need was a brother, which is what he got in Obi-Wan. Like they
sure,
were brothers, and you said that he
mm-hmm.
needed like a father, and
Yeah,
that's what Qui-Gon would have been to him. And then Qui-Gon died, Duel of the Fates. Like in that moment between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon, however
mm-hmm.
that battle was going to be decided was going to be the fate of Anakin, and that's the fate of
Mm-hmm.
the galaxy.
Sure,
He has this like I don't know if you've listened to this. It's just a great each by Dave Filoni. So yeah, I would love to see Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan interact, and
mm-hmm.
because that's been like even beyond Anakin and
Mm-hmm.
like Hayden and Ewan interacting, the relationship between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan is something that I haven't seen since I was like
Yeah,
10 years old.
right, a child. Like
Yeah. So
yeah,
even that, like that's mythology in front of my own eyes, like my
mm-hmm.
childhood, like Eden coming back from
Right.
from this like nostalgia past and re-emerging and seeing these two characters interact.
Yeah, interact in like a really interesting way. No, yeah, and I would agree. I haven't heard that speech from Filoni, but I
Definitely would
definitely,
recommend. I think it's the
yeah, it
second
sounds really
episode
cool.
of the Mandalorian making of. That
Sure.
definitely recommend. I also wanted to give a shout out to Joel Edgerton's performance.
Mhm.
He plays Owen Lars. I think
Yeah.
he did great. Like some of his line deliveries I thought were amazing. Just with like, he is my boy. Or at
Mhm.
the end where he was talking to Obi-Wan, he's like, Ben, do you want to see him? Referring
Right.
to Luke. I thought that was when I heard that, I'm like, damn, you're a good actor.
I know.
And then-
I was actually really impressed with him.
yeah,
I do find it funny. What is Owen's wife's name again?
Baru.
Yeah, Baru.
Yeah.
She like, I was trying to think, like, she basically had like no lines in New Hope. Yeah. Like, I think you kind of briefly hear her screaming at Luke from a distance, or like yelling for Luke.
There's like a scene when her and Owen are discussing Luke and how he needs to basically,
Get his
he
head out
can't
of the clouds.
stay on the farm forever.
Yeah. But they definitely leveled her character up a little bit in this show, which I did like.
Yeah,
that she
someone's
was-
like, they got like John Wick moves.
Yeah, right. Like,
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool that like she actually got a little bit more involvement, because I mean, she is like a big part of the story, but like ultimately her uh, biggest contribution is being a charred corpse later on in this show, or in the current
I'm also
story.
really happy because I was worried about this when Reva was chasing after Luke. He never saw her lightsaber, which I was
Right.
worried about that because, like, obviously in episode 4, when he sees a lightsaber for the first time, it's pretty iconic.
Right. Yeah, I know that. I guess you're right. I guess he doesn't really see the lightsaber.
He doesn't, yeah,
Yeah.
because she uses the Force to push him off a ledge, and then he like blacks out.
Right. Which I guess that's that's a good enough excuse there, because I know I was really annoyed with that moment for sure. I was just like, would it not seem prudent for Luke to remember a fucking mad woman with a lightsaber chasing after him?
I think,
You
yeah,
know?
I think it implied that he just thought it was like the Tusken Raiders. Because he said, "Oh, his dad or Owen said, oh, the
Yeah.
Tusken Raiders are coming," and then he runs off. And I don't think he actually ever sees the person that's pursuing him.
Yeah. Which I think that's fair. That's something I can compromise on. I do think it's like, he would probably know that it wasn't a Tusken Raider by that point, but maybe he wasn't conscious long enough to know, or like to see her. So
Yeah, I'm sure we're spending a lot of time on this. I can like feel, like, see in my head like the timer clicking down. There's one more thing I want to say before we move on. Well, there's two things. Okay, so your comment about Reva.
Yeah.
At the end there. Apparently, rumor has it that they actually changed the ending of the show. At the original ending, she was supposed to die. She actually goes back to Vader, and he kills her. But they left it ambiguous. Her ending ambiguous. So I'm assuming that was done to set up a season 2. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not totally keen on seeing Reva again. I'm hoping that they could do something with her, but as she is right now, she's kind of a, I don't know, not a huge fan. Doesn't even really explain why she, or how she lived when she was a kid either, but not a big deal. Maybe the same, she lives the same reason why, or how Baby Yoda does. Maybe that's being, fuck if I know.
See, that's the thing, is like, when they let her live, I was like, I swear to God, if we get like a show about Reva, I will fucking lose it. This is not a character I'm that interested or like vested in, and they already have enough going on as is. Her appearing in a season 2 of Obi-Wan, I think I'd be pretty fine with. But I will say that, Sith becoming good guy storyline
Kind of played out.
Is a little played out, right? It's like, can we just get a solid bad guy who is a Sith who stays a bad guy because they're bad? Like, Reva's got a chip on her shoulder. Just let her be that, But then again, I don't know. Maybe they could flesh her out a little bit better. But yeah, ultimately, I did enjoy the show. The last 2 episodes did a tremendous amount for my enjoyment of the show.
Yeah. Those middle 2 episodes, especially for me, the 4th, I'm like, I don't know about this show. I'm kind of thinking, I'm seeing like a lot of stuff I'm not really caring for. I guess the last thing, so I did say 2 things. Here's my last other point. is that I'm really excited. I want Lucasfilm. Like I kind of understand why they're kind of focusing in on this era, like of Star Wars, what we've already established, and kind of filling in the blanks. In some ways, I think they're doing it because, like, from our vantage point as a consumer, we're looking at content as like something that we want to consume immediately and we want it right now. I'm assuming Lucasfilm, like, their big thing is Star Wars. They're going to want to make stories not for the next 10 years, but for the next 20, 30, 40, 100 years. You know, that's what they want. It's a company. And so because we're focusing on this era, obviously Ian McGregor is the perfect age to continue to play Obi-Wan at this point. We still have some of the legacy characters still around, like alive and kicking. Like, yeah, we should use them right now to make new stories set in this era. However, I want to see new things. Like, I really do. Like, I want to see this world blown out more. Like, I want to see 1,000 years in the future, 1,000 years in the past. I want to see new things. Like, I love the Skywalker saga. Obviously, it's a huge part of even, I would say, who I am as a person. Like, just kind of ingrained in me as, like, you know, like a mythological narrative that perhaps I'm performing daily, you know, yearly, 10 years, who knows? Like, I think this kind of stuff from your childhood just keeps coming back, kind of like a, you know, like the subconscious, like the under iceberg kind of emerging upward sometimes. But yeah, I really do want to see new things. I want to see a Sith war. We've never seen that on screen. We've never seen like thousands of people running at each other with lightsabers. We never have seen anything like that on the big screen, maybe in a video game, but we've never seen it on our, you know, watching it. So
honestly, the closest thing we've gotten is a ton of Jedi all in like that Coliseum in Attack of the Clones. And like, which was a really cool moment. It was really cool seeing like all those lightsabers popping on.
But
like,
that wasn't a lightsaber battle though. I think
that was like, let's genocide some Genosians, shall we? And they did. And so
but if you have no other comments, I think we really should move on to Hero Gasm, because like I said, I can just see the time clock in my head, like, oh, we're talking way too much about Star
Wars. See, but it, like, I mean, that was a whole show to talk about. Whereas like Hero Gasm, which we can transition into now, is one episode. But man, what a fucking episode that was, right? Like, holy shit. That was just such a, I mean, Hero, you know, Gasm is definitely an appropriate phrase to apply to the show, not only for the events that we witness in the House of the Twins, but just like it was just explosive in so many different ways.
Yeah, I can think of one way is explosive, particularly right now.
Christ, just fucking poor MM, man, just getting absolutely slathered in some hero juice like that.
There was a spooky ghost in that room. You know?
I know, spooky ghost. God, yeah, that.
See, 10 minutes. I knew it. I knew it.
30 minutes of Star Wars, 10 minutes. I mean, I think that's pretty appropriate.
Yeah, I think it's like, I think that's probably a good time. Yeah.
It's I mean, it's really interesting. I am really enjoying this like, I mean, Homelander fucking losing it has been really interesting to see. I mean, we've always known he's kind of a crazy character for sure, but now it seems like we're seeing there's that scene in the mirror was giving me some serious Willem Dafoe vibes, just in how he's talking. It's like a goblin.
Spider-Man.
Like, that was like a near 1-for-1. You could have told me that Willem Dafoe was voicing Homelander in the mirror, and I would have believed you. Like, just the cadence and how he was talking, I was like, man, he'd sound like he must have heavily had this inspired from that scene.
Yeah, but just his acting in that scene in particular, and why am I drawing a blank on the guy's name who plays Homelander? We'll find out right now.
I feel bad forgetting about it.
Come on, Wikipedia, don't do this to me. Or Google. When one puts in Homelander on
Anthony Starr,
I think, yes. Anthony Starr. Yeah, he's actually from New Zealand, which is interesting. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I did not know that.
Same place where the actor that plays Butcher is from, interestingly enough.
Good old Carbon.
Yeah. I do like when that scene with Butcher and Huey talking to Soldier Boy in like the hotel room, and I thought it was hilarious for some reason, just the way they're like presenting themselves, like trying to sell themselves like they needed us, and like Butcher
Right.
called him son. I don't know, like
Yeah.
he does it a lot. Just the way he was like saying it was really funny. I thought.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like Carl Urban is he's a fantastic actor, and his portrayal of Butcher has just been so fucking good. I mean, I am delighted by him every time he's on screen. Like he's just so good.
Yeah, yeah. The hero. Okay, so the herogasm. That's the big thing, right? So essentially, it's like this orgy
Right.
of heroes that come together, or supernatural, or not supernatural, superpowered people that come together to have like a big orgy, and it happens every year apparently.
Yeah, just fuck each other's brains out, basically.
Exactly. And so as a viewer, you get a lot of nudity and some crazy freaking weird nudity too. Essentially, from what I understand, that scene with like the guy's weird dick, snake dick,
Enormous snake dick,
which is iconic.
a callback to another season.
That's right.
If you remember that, because he's one of the supers that escaped the same facility that Lamplighter was working in.
That's right. I thought I had seen that before.
Because that's why MM says, or that's why Love Snake says, you seem familiar, because his cock was wrapped around MM's throat at one point.
Gotcha, man. From season 1, like I barely remember that, but you're right. There's the Lamplighter who was like played by the ice guy from X-Men, right?
Yeah.
Jeez, I completely forgot about that. He's a good actor too.
Yes. Yeah. Sean Ashmore.
Yeah, he's good. But yeah, Herogasm. I mean, so we get all the main characters coming together in this one location, which I was reading an interview from Eric Kripke, who's one of the major guys behind the show, and he was saying, yeah, this is a big event in the show because it's pretty rare that you get all these characters coming together into one spot, and so you get a lot of these like emotional moments that happen because these characters are all coming together. Like you get like Huey and the fast guy, A-Train. Obviously, you get like Soldier Boy and like his old team. You get like Homelander and freaking everybody. I mean, there's just like a lot of stuff going on. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that moment between, because yeah, like you can see it in Huey's eyes. Like Jack Quaid is also a very good actor. Like you can see it in his eyes. He has this moment where he's like, I could avenge Robin right now. Like he wants to fight A-Train. Like that's where his head's at. But he, out of nowhere, he's not expecting for A-Train to actually show remorse. He understands like that there are consequences to his actions, and now he's coming around to the notion that, oh yeah, like what I do to people fucking sucks, because like now my brother will never walk again as a result of my actions.
And then he goes on to kill this freaking guy in one of the most gruesome ways possible. So
I know, fucking Dragon. I mean, like I don't know if A-Train's going to be dead. I think we're going to get another.
Because his heart goes out. That's right.
Yeah, like I don't think they're going to actually kill him quite yet.
Does he die in the comics?
That I don't know. I have barely made my way through the Boys graphic novel that I have, and honestly, part of it was just how fucking brutal it is. Because
the show is brutal. Sometimes I have to get myself in the right frame of mind to watch it, just because how gross it is and how violent it is, how cynical it is. It's a very cynical show.
It is. Well, and like one of the first like really horrible scenes. I mean, like outside of the opener with Robin fucking exploding, but when Starlight is essentially forced to give the Deep a blowy there in the tower, like that moment in the comics, she blows the entire team. Like that moment is way fucking worse in the comics. She has to fucking be like a fuck toy essentially for Homelander, Noir, and Deep, like all in the same room at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
Yeah.
all of them just like take their pants off and they're like, "Oh yeah, fucking welcome aboard, motherfucker, get to work." And that was the moment where I was like, I need to step away from this because what the
Yeah.
fuck? Like that, honestly, that moment, I was like, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Which I mean is great. Like the end of this episode, I thought was a pretty good moment. I'm curious to see where it goes, where essentially uh Starlight gets on the streaming and basically outs the whole thing. So curious
Yeah,
where
I
that's
mean,
gonna go.
we don't know what Homelander's inner monologue is telling him now. I feel like like getting his ass beat by, I mean, it took three fucking
Yeah. And they had
very
an element of
powerful.
surprise too, which I'm like, can they really repeat that?
Right, yeah, and it's that I should have known as soon as they had Love Snake speaking that it's like, oh man, they're gonna have some fucking like Russian like fuck music going on, porn, porny Russian music playing in the background. That's gonna trigger him, Soldier Boy, that is, into having his explosion power come out in full force.
Yeah, good point. I didn't pick up on that actually. So yeah,
You
I like
should have.
Jensen Ackles. I don't. Okay, so also Eric Kripke was behind Supernatural, so I should have known Jensen
Sure.
Ackles. And also the guy that plays Bobby from Supernatural, I think is a presidential candidate or something in the show, isn't he?
Oh, really?
I think so. Anyway,
Might have
that's
been.
one of the first things like Jensen Ackles, uh, Soldier Boy sees when he becomes back into New York. He like sees a picture of Bobby. I'm like, oh, is that Supernatural? And
Yeah,
Eric
you're
Kripke
making that.
talking up.
I hadn't even noticed that. That's really cool. But
Yeah, what's his name? Steven Singer. Or that, sorry, Robert. That's the actor's the character's name. Who cares? We only have 2 minutes, or have like a minute left, so let's just.
yeah. But no, Hero Gasm was an amazing episode. The boys has just been nailing it, and I've been telling everyone I know to watch this show.
Season 3's been great.
Yeah, like I have thoroughly enjoyed all seasons of the show, but season 3's been awesome. Obi-Wan was a fun ride. It's over now. There definitely were some things we would have liked to have done better there, but it is what it is. We have less than a minute left, so I want to thank you all for joining us today on this episode of the Nerds of the North podcast. Thanks for listening to us ramble about our favorite things in nerd culture, and we will get with you guys next week for the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.